Hello students, welcome to Creative Learning Resources. This is Adil Ahmed, your teacher, and today we are going to learn about excretion, excretory system, and the structure of kidney. So for today's lesson, just relax and you're going to understand each and everything about this particular topic which we are going to start right now. We have learned in the earlier topics what is meant by excretion. So excretion refers to the removal. So whenever the word excretion comes into your head, you just think about it, that it's the removal of some waste materials, the toxic chemicals. So what is meant by excretion? So excretion is the IGCSE definition, very good one. Even the IB students can also use it. Excretion is the removal from organisms the waste materials, and these waste materials, from where they're coming from the chemical reactions taking place in our bodies, and these chemical reactions, they are called as metabolism. What is metabolism? Metabolism means all chemical reactions taking place in the body. So all the chemical reactions which are taking place in the body, they are referred as metabolism. So, and as a result of metabolism, certain chemicals are produced in our body, and these chemicals are toxic. Toxic means, so this metabolism is producing toxic chemicals. And toxic means poisonous. So there are certain toxic chemicals producing in our body. They are poisonous. Sometimes some chemicals, they're not poisonous, they're not toxic. They're just like, we don't need them. So what do you do with the things in your home which you don't need? So our homes, we keep on throwing the stuff which we are not in a need of all those things anymore, and as a result of which, we will be having more space for some useful stuff to bring in. So if you have some, let's say an old closet, you have an old couch which you don't need or you don't like it anymore, or you want to replace it, so what you're going to do, you have to throw that couch, you have to throw that closet, and so that's how you're going to have some more space for the new one to come in. Similarly, what happens over here? It's not just the toxic chemicals, it's not just the poisonous chemicals which we have to throw them out. Also, like those chemicals which we are not in a need of those in a very large quantity, so some of those we are going to throw them out. So metabolism, so as a result of metabolism, the products of metabolism, some of the products of metabolism, they are toxic. Toxic means poisonous, and we don't want them. And some of the products of metabolism, they are just wastes, okay, useless. So they're waste materials, they're useless substances, and we want to get rid of all those things. So the definition is, it is the process in which the living things, so it is the removal from organisms, the toxic chemicals, toxic materials, and the waste materials, toxic chemicals, the products of metabolism, and then the materials, the substances which are excess than requirement. Then the syllabus, if you notice, that syllabus also shows a part in the definition which is in bracket. The bracket is the one which you don't need to write, and even it is not the part of the definition of excretion. They have written that the metabolism, and then right after metabolism they have given something in bracket, and that is actually the definition of metabolism. Basically, it's not the definition, or it's not a part of excretion. If you write it down, it's okay, but if you don't want to write it down, if you want to skip it, you can pass it, and that's fine. So we are going to see that metabolism definition, the chemical reactions taking place in our body. So we have the products of metabolism, which may be toxic, which may be just wastes, which may be just excess of our requirements. So these are three parts in the definition. So if it is excess, then our needs. So we should get rid of them. Those things, we just want to get rid of them. We're not having a danger from them, but we want to have more space for the useful substances can come in. So that is the important point. So this is the definition of metabolism. And wherever is metabolism taking place, most of the time, the metabolic center in our body, for most of the cases, that is liver. So liver is a place where the maximum metabolism or most of the metabolism or metabolic activities or chemical reactions, they are taking place. And then in liver, what happens? We have some waste materials produced over there and we have to get rid of them. We're going to see that there are three basic organs. Always remember, three organs which are responsible for those for the process of excretion. So excretion is done in our body by three major organs, which include what? So these organs include, so we can say that excretory organs, they could be, it could be our kidney. Definitely kidney is the most important excretory organ to discuss. Then we have our skin. We also get rid of certain chemical substances through our skin. Yes, definitely. Whenever we are sweating, what are we doing? We are doing excretion. And then, thirdly and lastly, we have to talk about our lungs. So, kidney, skin, lungs. These are three organs you have to keep in your head. And then, what else do we need to know about them? What type of substances they are going to get rid of. So kidney helps us to, produce urine. And what does urine contain? We're going to see in a minute. Skin help us to remove which thing? Yes, sweat. Is sweat something good? Of course, sweat is not the component of sweat. We have to get rid of them. Mostly it contains water, and its purpose is the production of sweat is to also provide us a mechanism for cooling, So it is like once we start feeling really hot, what do? We start sweating. And we are sweating because we want to keep our bodies cool. And that happens, but that's a topic of homeostasis. We are not supposed to discuss it over here. Our purpose is to discuss that what else sweat contains other than water. And water is also something which we don't need beyond then a certain quantity. Of course, if there's too much water, then we will not be left with space in our cells to let other things to come in. So that's why it's important that we should get rid of anything which is not needed, anything which is not required by our body. And lungs help us, they are exhalation, exhaled air. That could be a better one. Exhaled air is the one that we get rid of through our lungs. What does urine contain? All of these three, remember this thing, all of these three contain water. All these three. Are we producing that much water? Answer is yes. There are many chemical reactions in which we produce water, and those chemical reactions are called as condensations. Okay. So, sweat also contains water, and lungs also contain water, but remember that the water present in lungs, that is in the form of vapors. So we have water vapors once we are exhaling through our lungs. Then First two, the urine and the sweat also contain urea. Yes, both of these contain urea as well. But of course, the amount of urea in urine is much more than the amount of urea in our sweat. So now you can notice that that's why this liquid is called as urine. That's the reason that it's called as urine. And then we're going to look into what else does lung contain. So this urea is basically coming under the definition of toxic chemicals, right? So this urea is a toxic chemical. So this comes into, this is going to join this club. Urea is a toxic chemical. What is the toxic chemical? In the exhaled air? Yes, I heard someone said carbon dioxide. Very good, excellent. You did a wonderful job. Carbon dioxide is the toxic chemical. Do we have something else also? Like, yes, skin contains minerals, but does urine also contain minerals? Yes, urine also contains minerals. Exhaled air contains minerals? No, exhaled air does not contain any other mineral. You don't have to know anything more about the exhaled air, but they ask many tricky questions many times. So the question which they can give, like a multiple choice question, and they can give you a list of different options. They can give you, let's say, liver, they can give you kidney, they can give you lungs, and they can give you some other organ like your eyes or ears or anything. So they can provide you a list with all those, and they can ask you which one of the following is not having an excretory organ. So then you have to think about it. Many students think that, oh, which one is not the excretory organ? So that is probably the lungs. But no, lung is also an excretory organ. Understand that. Lung is an excretory organ, skin is an excretory organ. So our excretory system is actually, in this topic, we're not going to talk about all of them. Skin we discuss in homeostasis. We're going to talk about kidney, basically. So kidney is the main organ you have to talk about. As I have already mentioned that there are minerals also present in both the kidney, product urine, as well as the sweat which is released or which is excreted through our skin. So now we're going to see that our main excretory organ, kidney, it is producing, and over here the most important toxic chemical, that is urea. So you have to switch your focus to urea, and this urea, which is a toxic chemical, that urea is produced where and during which process? This urea is produced in our liver. So another trick question. They always ask, where is urea produced and from which through which organ it is being excreted out? And students always do a mistake. They think that urea is produced in the kidney. Urea is not produced in the kidney. Yes, the organ through which the urea is excreted out. Once you're going to do the practice from the multiple choice questions from the past papers, you'll see that there's so many questions in which they're going to talk about that the kidney is the organ, or which organ is going to give you certain options in which they will be giving you liver, kidney, lungs, blah, blah, blah. And if the question is, where is urea produced? Then the answer should be liver. So urea is produced in the liver during a process called as deamination. So urea is produced, urea production. And how is this urea produced? That you're going to see. You don't need to know the chemical reaction, that how the amino acids are broken down and all that, but urea production is in the liver. So the important points that you have to remember, the production of urea is taking place in liver and during a process called as deamination. And what is deamination? Deamination is a process in which the excess amino acids, the amino acids which we don't need, they're more than our requirement, so those amino acids are broken down. So the amino acids in excess, so remember that those amino acids which we don't need, they are going to break down, and these amino acids are going to break down into two important parts. One is the glucose, which we have to talk about, important from our examination point of view, and the other one is the urea. Actually, it is first produced into ammonia, and then ammonia turns into urea, but for IGCSE students, you don't need to know about these two steps. For A levels, yes, you need to know that. That we'll talk about in our another A level detailed lesson. So, or IB students also don't need to know the double step process. You just have to keep in your head that like the amino acids, they just need to be broken down in our liver by glucose, by the process called as deamination. During the process deamination, and we produce glucose and we produce urea. Glucose is not a toxic chemical. Do we need glucose? Yes, we are in a need of glucose. We require glucose. And what do we do with this glucose? Some of the glucose we use in respiration immediately. And some of the glucose, what do we do with it? We store it in the form of glycogen. You know that the glycogen is the storage form, is a complex carbohydrate, and you have seen the video which is on carbohydrates. That was also a live stream of 1 hour. If you don't know what's a glycogen, then you can watch that video as well. So, promotion, you know. So the glycogen is the storage form of carbohydrates in our bodies, and then urea has to be expelled out of the body. Now what happens? This urea is poured, it's put into the blood, it's added into the blood. So blood is gonna carry it, it's gonna take it to the kidney. It means that it's just added into the blood, and kidney is the organ which is going to filter it out. Now, understand this thing. Many times students ask me, especially like, you know, those students who are going to gym and they're doing bodybuilding and all that stuff, they ask me, should they use some extra aminos or, you know, the amino shakes and all that stuff? I recommend that whatever is your requirement, depending upon your workout, how much you're working out, you have to calculate it, or you have to talk to your trainer and or like, you know, a professional to understand this thing, that the certain amount of amino acid, of course, you need, and the elevated quantity in your diet is required. Being a biologist, I always suggest that try to bring it from natural sources, try to bring it from, like, you know, from fish, from other type of meat, eggs. So try to bring it from the natural sources instead of those synthetically produced aminos and amino shakes and all that stuff. Unless you're not very crazy to just, like, you know, develop, like, you know, your biceps and triceps like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So if you don't want to become that, then, like, you know, that's fine. What is the disadvantage of taking too much aminos and you're not consuming them, or they're not going to become parts of your muscles? The problem is that you're putting a liver to do extra work. Your liver has to do more deamination. Your liver has to break down more of the amino acids because you're taking a lot of them. And by no chance you're going to go to consume all of them. So all those aminos which are extra, your liver has to start breaking it down during the process called as deamination. It means that simply your liver has to do extra work. If the liver is supposed to do extra work, what's the disadvantage? Disadvantage would be, like, you know, first your liver cells, they probably start getting damaged because of this constant and continuously putting extra load on them. Secondly, you're making more urea, and that urea, blood is going to take it to the kidney, and then you're putting kidney also on the extra work. So kidney also have to do extra work than normal, than in any other normal person. So be careful whenever you are taking any amino shakes and all these stuff. These kind of things, like, they contain a lot of synthetic chemicals, and you have to be very careful about that. Now, we have learned that deamination. So the important trick question which I've told you, that the production of urea, look at the word carefully in the question. Many students they misread, or they can't, actually, they don't focus on the question, and they just look at the word urea. They think that it's urine, and then where is urine produced? If the word is urine in the question, if the word urine comes, in which organ urine is produced? Yes, urine is produced in the kidney. But if they ask that in which organ the urea is produced, then it is produced in our liver. Production of urea in the liver, this is all what we need to know. Now we're going to talk about, and we're going to look into the structure of kidney. And we have to learn more details about our excretory system. And our excretory system, the excretory system is mainly composed of kidney. So we have to look at the position and all that. So this is our left kidney. Remember, left is right. So this is our left kidney. This is our right kidney. Right kidney is slightly, below, little bit, because we have two lobes of liver over here on the top of our right kidney. That's why this is slightly below, but slightly. It doesn't mean that right kidney is in the knee and left kidney is in your shoulder. It's not like that. Okay. So, do you need to know how to draw this diagram? IB students, yes. They are supposed to know how to draw this particular diagram. IGCSE and A-level students, no. You don't need to know how to draw, but you need to know how to label this diagram and the other details of this diagram. So, if we come down over here, this is the bladder. Bladder is the organ where the urine is stored. So this is meant for the storage of the urine. So urine is constantly produced, and then it is sent to the bladder, because the process of excretion should only be supporting if we have a storage organ as well. Every person could not be just sitting inside the washroom all the time. So this is the organ which is going to store the urine, and then how the blood supply is coming to these two kidneys. Here we can see that this is the largest blood vessel, which is called as artery, and or you can say aorta. Aorta is an artery. Sometimes they give a hint to know that which one is artery and which one is vein, because most of the time the paper is not printed in different colors. It will not be red or it will not be blue. You will not know from the colors. I'm using colors so that you can clearly see and identify that which one is which. But we have seen that the red is the artery and the blue is the vein. But how would you know in your question paper, which is black and white? If they're asking for a labeling for that, how would you know? First thing that you have to keep in your head, that look at the lumen size. You know this thing that the artery's lumen is actually narrow. So if you see a narrow lumen, it means that that one is an artery, and automatically that one is a vein. They don't challenge IGCSE students to that extent sometimes, but they can do one more thing. So hint number 2, look at if there's any arrow indicating the direction of blood flow through these blood vessels. The blood vessel which is bringing the blood down, that is your artery, aorta. And the one which is bringing or taking the blood up, that is the vein. And what's the name of this vein? This is inferior vena cava. So this is inferior vena cava, which is taking the blood back to the heart. And this connects to the right atrium of the heart. So the blood comes in, and the blood is going through this blood vessel. And what is the name of this blood vessel? Remember that kidney is renal. So as this is an artery which is supplying blood to the renal, that's why it's a renal artery. And this blood vessel is going to take blood back from the renal to where? To the vena cava. So this is taking the blood back from the renal to the vena cava. So that is called as a renal vein. So basically what happens that the blood comes in to the artery, biggest artery, largest artery in the body, which is the aorta, and then blood enters into the kidney. After entering into the kidney, where does it go? It is just filtered by the kidney, which you're going to see in a minute, and then it will go back through this renal vein into the vena cava. Vena cava will take that blood back into the heart. Remember that the blood which is coming inside the renal artery, this is rich in oxygen, rich in urea. Of course, it's bringing urea. That's the main thing. Bringing the urea and going to get rid of urea, that's the main purpose what we're going to achieve. Like, the purpose of that is to just get rid of the urea, and it's like to remove the urea from the blood. After removal of the urea, our blood is going to be sent back to the system. But of course, the cells in the kidney, they utilize the oxygen and they also add carbon dioxide. So if we compare the blood which is inside the renal vein, that is containing comparatively less oxygen, that's containing comparatively more carbon dioxide, and containing comparatively less urea. So that is what you have to keep in your head, that this is the composition of blood inside the renal vein, and this is the composition of blood inside the renal artery. After the process of filtration, the urine which is formed inside the kidney, that urine is sent down through this tube, this duct. And these tubes are called as ureters. This is ureter. So we are labeling 2, that's why I have written ureters. This is the bladder. And this is urethra. Urethra is the tube through which the urine is expelled out once we go to bathroom. Then, the sphincter muscle. A sphincter muscle is the muscle, which is closing the urethra. And if anyone who needs to excrete, that person goes to the bathroom or toilet, and then this sphincter muscle opens, and then the tube which was actually pinched from there, so now urine can go out, that tube gets unpinched, and then the urine starts going down. Also, one very important point which I would like to tell you, a misconception many of the students they have, whenever the word excretion comes in, they start talking about the removal of feces from the body. Removal of feces is not excretion. Don't say that. Whenever you go to bathroom and you are excreting out feces, that's not to be called as excreting out feces. It's not excretion because the feces removal is called as defecation, or in simple words, this can also be called as egestion. So remember, defecation or egestion or removal of feces from the body, that should never be called as excretion. That's not excretion. Why? Because in the definition we learned that excretion is the removal from the body the chemicals which are the waste products of metabolism. And none of these. Defecation, we just get rid of those substances which we could not digest. So undigestible food is being removed during the process of defecation, or so don't call defecation or digestion as excretion. That's a very important point. Many students, they actually do a mistake over here. They think that excretion means removal of any type of substances. So feces removal, not excretion. Removal of urine, that is excretion. So the urine is excreted out from here. So we have seen the position, location of the, what you call the two kidneys in our body, where they actually located. So the kidneys are located, they are attached to the dorsal body wall at the back side of our body, like, you know, just in the lower side of your back. These two kidneys are located on both sides of our spinal cord. And now we're going to see the longitudinal section of the kidney. How does this kidney look like from inside? So get rid of this stuff. So means excretion. If we draw a section of longitudinal section of the kidney, what are we going to see? This is our kidney. I'm drawing it. So this is the ureter. That broad section from where the ureter comes out, that is called as pelvis. Then the blood vessels come in, and these blood vessels, they actually divide the whole central part of the kidney into different triangular structures. These triangular structures are called as pyramids. So these triangles are called as pyramids. Yes, the pyramids in Egypt, remember it like that. So these are called as pyramids. These pyramids contain, inside these pyramids, or of course in this whole region, there are very small microscopic tubules. What's a tubule? Means a very small tube. There are microscopic tubules called as nephrons. So we have nephrons over here. It should not be labeled like that because you're not looking at any nephron. So we can say this thing that nephrons, the pyramids contain nephron. So inside the pyramids we have nephron. So what's a nephron? Nephron is basically the structural and functional unit of kidney. So nephron is the structural and functional unit of kidney. So the outer edge is actually comparatively darker in color. Like this section, you can say just, you can draw a boundary to identify it, separate from here. So you can see this thing that this outer edge, this is called as cortex. And the inner part, that is called as medulla. This is ureter. This broader portion from where the ureter comes out, that's called as pelvis. This is the renal artery. Where is the renal vein? Where did it go? Didn't go anywhere. It's right there. So this is the renal vein. It's on the other side, so like you can't see it from this side. So this is the renal vein. That's the longitudinal section of the kidney. So understand that the blood is coming through the renal vein into the kidney, and then this blood is spreaded. It's going and passing through the nephrons, which are the structural and functional unit of the kidney, and the nephrons are the one which are going to filter that blood. And how does this filtration and what is happening inside the nephron and how this cleaning process takes place, that is our target for our next lesson, which will be the very next lesson will be on the nephron, which we're going to talk about that. So first you have to go through all of these concepts thoroughly. You have to memorize all of these names, these terminologies, revise through your book, your notebook, your notes, and then do some past paper questions as well. Plus then we're gonna, next lesson, the lesson is uploaded, the live stream is on every Saturday and it is on every Tuesday. So that is the general pattern and you will get notified. So thank you very much for being with me today, and going to see you very soon. And